Hey everybody.
We're in the second week of our series called In God We Trust.
Yes.
Yes. And so welcome to the primer to help you prepare. Jim, last week we talked about pleasure and in all its varieties and what the biblical text has to say about pleasure. But we're going to turn our attention to kind of the flip of how people sometimes approach money this week. What are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about that control in our wealth is actually a facade. So the kind of security that we find, this appeal that exists in our culture, and I would even say not all the world has the pleasure of or the luxury of trying to control their financial destiny. I mean,
Kind of a Western first world problem.
It is a
if you will.
first world problem to be able to say, listen, that follow these tips, these financial stewardship tips, then all of a sudden you'll have the financial freedom to be able to do whatever you want and pursue that. That's definitely a first world issue. And so we're going to be talking about the danger of that. We're going to be talking about the danger of creating a life that is built around the facade that you're in control of things. So if last week it was about how pleasure is short-lived and therefore find your greatest pleasure in God.
Right.
This week we're going to be talking about that within our Christian community, that should you figure out the danger of pleasure and become more responsible and financially constrained and kind of plan for the future, that in the end that's not the path for success, that just leads to a few more problems that you need to be aware of, that our solution is only found in God. It's only found in the work of Christ, both in pleasure and in our control. And the other thing that I would say is this. I loved thinking through the songs you sang Sunday. I thought the worship set was awesome.
It was a good day.
It was a good day. Yeah. But I thought about how much those songs geared us up to the text. And I don't know if anybody realized it, but the songs were very strongly focused on, and I love you, and I find my pleasure in you. I really enjoy your presence. And so I already had the sermon rumbling around in my mind, and it really helped. And so I want to challenge you guys that realize that we're thinking through the whole process. And I just want to keep saying again, as you come in Sunday and we're singing some songs, I want you to focus on the parts of the songs that celebrate and focus on the bigness of God in the process.
You might be surprised how much more the singing will mean to you if you take a little bit of time to reflect on and prepare for what's coming in the sermon. I mean, Jim's absolutely right. It's context for what we're singing on that day.
So just, I mean, we're going to talk in a moment about how to prepare like we always do every week, but I just want to make sure that you're walking into the sermon going, okay, how do we find our strength in God? How do we find our security in God? How do we find our control in God and not in ourselves? So that's one thing I think you guys should be excited about for Sunday.
As a communicator, you're a professional communicator for a living is a big part of what you do. I'm sure you've been misunderstood before. It happens to the best of us, and even with the best of intentions, and even with a skilled communicator. And money is a thing where people get very defensive about it or emotional about it or feel like it's an intrusion to talk about it. I think the potential for being misunderstood is significant on this subject. How do you sort of process, think about, and deal with the potential for misunderstanding?
Whenever I feel like I want to attack somebody for what they said, Steve Carpenter always tells me this. He says that when that happens, it's probably a sign that they're speaking something that's really bothering you, right?
Yeah.
And so we might want to try to pretend that we're somewhat neutral consumers of information. But when somebody comes up and really wants to, hey, did you say this? A lot of times it's not accurate, and a lot of times they're reading into it a little bit. So let me just say that
it's happened to me when I've preached.
Yeah, exactly. They how did you get that from what I just said? So,
exactly.
and that's true for us. It's not just true for other people. We can do the same thing.
Sure.
So if last week you may have heard me say, boy, you shouldn't take pleasure in anything that you have. That's not what I said at all, actually. We just need to find our greatest pleasure in God. So here's my concern. I'm not afraid, but my concern about being misunderstood this week is that as I talk about the danger of believing you're in control of those things, that there's going to be a number of people that are going to wonder if I said that being irresponsible is the best Christian response to wealth.
401ks are dumb.
Yeah,
that's not what you're going to say.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that as we are responsible, eyes open, we are buying a new set of problems. And if you think that somehow by being in control and financially free and financially secure is this kind of this picture perfect Christian position where you can give to missions and go on mission trips, but if you're still doing it at your own time and in your own discretion and you're never asking some tougher questions, you're just buying another problem.
Right.
And so I think the Bible teaches very strongly as God sends them into the promised land, be careful believing when you go into this land that these blessings have been given to you and you're the one that caused this. Mm-hmm. So you can be irresponsible with your money and be a fool. You can be responsible with your money and be a different kind of fool. So I guess my concern this week, if I have one, would be do not hear me say that financial responsibility is wrong. It's just another kind of dangerous.
Right.
So that'd be it.
How do we best prepare, as we sort of alluded to when we were talking about the worship set, to walk in and have soil in our heart that's ready to really receive that seed?
We're going to be speaking and singing truth Sunday, and ask, God, what are you saying to me about my financial problems, my financial success, even, right? Because you can have a financial problem, I'm broke. You can have a financial problem, I don't need anybody or anything.
Right.
I would say ask questions in terms of where your heart is at, in terms of pride. Maybe you're in the process of moving from financially irresponsible to financially responsible. And will you have your eyes open enough to be able to say, but God, don't take me to a place. Like, keep my heart from putting my hope in the treasures that I have. So Jesus says, where your treasures are, there your heart will be. And so you can really begin to ask the question, like, where do I find my greatest joy?
What am I setting my heart on and my affections on?
And what am I setting sometimes it's pleasure, but then sometimes it's security, right? Like,
absolutely.
For example, my wife is far more of a security, she has a security gene far more than she has a pleasure gene. So she can look financially, or she can look spiritually responsible because she's not the one to waste money like I could.
Right.
I'm a pleasurer.
But if it's based on fear, then it's, and I'm not saying it isn't her case,
No, but yeah.
oftentimes there is a fear-based response
Sure.
to wanting to control and have money because you're afraid
Sure.
of the future.
So I really needed last week's message on pleasure is fleeting.
Yes, you did.
And for example, my wife needs, but here we both need both messages.
Sure.
But this is a great message for my wife, who, Andrea, this godly woman who's pursuing the Lord. There really can be a subtle danger when I put my hope and my trust. Andrea and I have gone through, just like growing up in early marriage and being in need of God, and we remember what it was like to be really dependent upon Him. Like, is it fair to say like we're less dependent upon Him now because we've been able to take care of ourselves and
it might be a facade.
That's my issue. So that's the part that we really want to challenge you to be prepared to deal with is come with a heart asking, God, reveal what you want, and not only reveal it to me, but help me respond to this. Help me believe, help me to trust in these kinds of truths that you're speaking to me.
I am looking forward to sharing the time with all of you and with Jim, and we'll see you Sunday, guys. God bless.